Hey guys, we are back for Lovecraft Country Season 1, Episode, I think, 4? I think it's 4 or 3. I'll put it in the description. Anyway, The History of Violence is the title of it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the love. Alright, y'all. I'm sorry, it's late. It was Labor Day weekend, and a lot of other shows came back. Power came back. Well, Power Book 2, so I had to do that, and then I was just off because I didn't realize that came out, and then I had family stuff going on, and I got it for y'all now though. Got it for y'all now. So anyway, let's get into it. So it starts off with we see Montrose. Montrose is just in his apartment looking stankin' with just his drawers on, and he got the book of Adam, or the whatever, that ancient order or whatever. He has that book that Uncle George gave him before he died or whatnot, and he reading through it, and he's just looking real troubled. He's drinking and like all the stuff in his mind or whatnot, and he's just thinking about the past and all this other stuff, and he just seems very troubled. And then he just throw the book in the garbage and he burns it, and I'm like, okay, hopefully y'all don't need that later. But oh well. A lot of stuff happened in this episode, y'all. Like, it felt like I was in National Treasure / Journey to the Center of the Earth. Like, it's just a whole lot going on in this episode. It'd be a whole lot going on in all the episodes. So it's just like really kind of hard to follow sometimes, but that's why these reviews be so long. But I'm trying to work on being a little bit more concise. Anyway, from there, we see one thing I do like about this show is they don't just stick with songs from that time period. They play like, you will hear any song in this dang old show. Like, the next scene is all of a sudden I hear "Bitch Better Have My Money" by Riri, and I'm like, oh shit, hey, and I start jamming, and it's just kind of it's funny, but it's kind of cool because it kind of just throws you out of like the scene a little bit, just because it's like such a new song, not new to us, but I mean it's such a newer song, and like we're seeing like they're in like the 1950s. So it's just interesting to see like the contrast of time periods, and I think they did that deliberately. I'm sure they did that deliberately. So, and then in that scene where we're hearing that, it is Charlotte. And Charlotte is paying a visit. No, her name is not Charlotte. I keep calling that girl Charlotte. Her name is Christina. Christina Braithwaite. I don't know if I pronounced that girl name right. And she is paying a visit to Letty. And then she go knock on Letty's door, and then she's like, oh, can I come in? And then she go try to come in. Boop. That lady who put that protection spell on the house or whatever to block out evil and shit, so her ass couldn't come in. You know, she did that with the ghost blood when she cleansed the house and everything. So she was like, she asked Letty something, and at this point Letty figures out that, oh, it wasn't her mama that gave her that money, it was Christina's ass who gave her that money, because she was like, she's looking for Hiram's what the hell, solar system thing, that solar system thing that Hippolyta was messing around with. And Letty like, I don't know what you're talking about, but this is my house, and I don't care if you gave me the money for it anyway, because my name is on the deed, so girl, get your ass out of here. And then she was like, Christina tells her like, look, just because Tick or whatever, she tells her about how Tick came to her her business or her office or whatever that she had just got earlier that day. So this is not even a day after, this is the same day that she put the gun on Tick. This episode starts saying, oh, he put a gun on me and he tried to kill me or whatnot. So she tells Letty all that stuff, but Letty's like, whatever, get the hell out. So from there we jump and we see Hippolyta. Hippolyta is in you know, her bookshop, you know, her and George's bookshop or whatever that they be doing, and she has the Hiram solar system thing, and I'm like, how the hell she get that out of Letty's house without Letty even knowing it? Like, they didn't even show any of that. It's a lot of stuff that in this show where a whole bunch goes on, but they don't show like certain things and how certain things happen. But I'm like, okay, whatever. So anyway, from there, we see Letty. She pulls up on Tick at the library, and she was like, "You weren't gonna tell me that Christina sorcerer's ass is going she came to my house today, and you were gonna tell me that she was the one that was behind the money for the house, and she came talking about these pages, and you tried to kill her, blah blah blah." So they arguing, and she was like, he's like, "I didn't tell you because I'm trying to keep you and my family safe, and I'm gonna fix this." And I'm like, Tick, you kind of passed not involving her and stuff. Like, the girl done got shot and shit, fucking around with you, going on road trips with Uncle George. Uncle George is all the way dead. So you keep trying to push her out and leave her out of stuff. But why though? Because she'd already been through the danger. It's not like you protected her from anything. He thinks he's protecting her, but it's like, really, you not though. So she like, whatever. She's like, why don't you just, and he's in the library trying to figure out a way to find those pages, because he's like, if I could get to these pages, maybe I could start making my own spells to protect us or whatnot. And then she was like, well, why you sitting here looking at all these books? Why don't you go ask your daddy, because he probably done read all these books already while you looking at them. And then he's like, no, I don't want to involve him, and I don't want you involved either, so get out of here. So she like, whatever. Then when he go and he look at the books that he looking at and reading in, he sees the library card. And the library card, the checkout card, every person, the last person that read all these books, who was it? His father / Uncle Daddy, Montrose. So then it shows, let me see. It shows Tick going over to Sam's bar or whatnot to look for his father. And then as he walks up to look for his father, who's sitting there already talking to Montrose, Letty. And then, you know, Montrose don't ever want to help. He like, no, I told you to leave that shit alone and leave that shit back in Artem the way it was, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, look, Christina is here, and I want to be able to protect us and make sure everybody is safe, because Letty was like, was you about to shoot Christina and leave back to Florida? He's like, no, I'm not going nowhere until I make sure my whole family is safe. I'm like, okay, whatever, Tick. So Montrose initially refuses to help, but then Tick gets mad and he leave. And then Letty, she says some shit like, you gonna let him just go around chasing his tail when you already know that you know some vital information. And then Montrose caves in and he's like, all right, well, do you got any people out in Boston? Because that's where I think the pages, Atticus's pages might be. So then they get all set up for another road trip to go to Boston, to this museum, to go see about these pages. They go see about these, so they all get gathered up to go see about these pages. And who's going along for the ride? We got 3 extra people going on for the ride. Hippolyta's going, little baby D, Atticus's little cousin D, and then homeboy named Tree or whatever, the one who was talking about he used to fuck with Letitia back in the day. So from there, and he's talking about he got a boo thing up in Boston, and he could hitch a ride with them so he could go see her. I'm like, dang. And then Hippolyta was like, okay, fine. So it's all of them going in the car. We don't see the actual drive out to Boston, which is good, because nobody see another road trip, because apparently this shit happened on the ride there. So then it cuts off and it goes to Ruby, Letitia's sister. She is at Marshall Fields trying to apply for a job again. She walking up in there. She's, she looking real stylish and cute, like she might own some, you never know. She looked like she had a little coins and stuff, but she was just up in there trying to, give her resume again. And then as she walks up there, she sees that there's a colored girl at the counter, ringing people up or whatnot, and she's like, oh shit, they got a black girl working up in here. And she paused and she just stand off to the side and she look at her hating and stuff. But then the black girl see her and she walks up to her. She's like, oh, can I help you with something? And then she looking at her. She was like, did you just start working here? And then the girl's like, oh, yeah. I just started yesterday. Actually, I can't believe they hired me. She's like, oh, I didn't know that they hired colored girls here, you know, Ruby Hayden. And she was like, yeah, I can't believe they hired me. I just applied on a whim. I'm like, ain't that about a blip? I'd have been mad too, low key, if I've been applying for like a million years and they just hired this girl and she just didn't really care about working there. She just randomly applied and got the job. So I'm like, dang, why they not hiring Ruby? So anyway, Ruby a little salty. So that goes on with her. After they got to Boston, at the museum, Montrose said that he has a hookup who gonna help them out there, and it turns out it's a security guard. I'm like, how you know a security guard at this specific museum? That's very convenient. So then he like, I'm gonna go holler at this dude, and I'll meet y'all back over here later. And then Hippolyta and everything is unbeknownst to Hippolyta. They're not filling her in on why they going there and everything, because you know if they did that, they would have to tell her exactly what happened to George and all that other stuff. So Hippolyta just there for I don't know what she really think they go in there for. Yeah, so she just goes off with D, and they go off to look at other parts of the museum, and she's like, we'll meet y'all back here in 3 hours. Montrose goes, and he's dips off with the security guard. Now Montrose, that looked real suspect. It's enough he be hanging out at that gay dude bar. I mean, just because the owner of the bar is gay don't mean that Montrose gay. But I'm just saying that they was real close. And it's further insinuated some shit, because all of a sudden, after he walks off with the security guard off into somewhere downstairs, then this Tree and whatnot and Tick, and they talking or whatnot, because right before that, Tree was trying to hit on Letitia, and he was like, you know why they call me Tree, right? That's because I got 3 legs, 1, 2, and then a trunk or whatever, some shit. And then she was like, shouldn't I know that since we slept together back in school? Because y'all know he was lying on his dick last episode when he was talking to Tick last time, and that's why Tick was all crazy and ran up on her and did her in the bathroom. Like, that was so stupid. But anyway, so Letitia treated his ass, and then he went and talked, confronted Tick a little bit about it, like, oh, if you want Letitia, that's fine. I'm like, dude, I thought you said you only came there to meet up with a boo thing. Why are you even at the museum with them? Why didn't you just go on about your business? But whatever. Probably specifically for this scene. He was like, I don't want Letitia or whatnot, but is this because I told you about your dad being over at Sam's bar or whatever? And he was like, that ain't got nothing to do with me. I ain't queer, you know. He was like, yeah, but don't you think it's a little weird or strange that Sam and your dad have been hanging out a lot since you've been gone? So he kind of insinuated like, I guess they mess around or something. And he's just like, whatever, you know. So Tick kind of just brushes it off. From there, we see what happened? Oh, and there was one scene before they get to Boston. Well, it was happening at the same time. We jump back to Christina, and Christina was playing tag with some little white kids, and then all of a sudden the police pull up on her, and then she get in the car with them, and they drive off, and then they escort her to the police captain or whatnot's office, and then he's like, what you doing in my city without telling me? And then she was like, you know, she had went over to Hiram's house and tried to find that solar system thing, and he was like, you think you have any entitlement to try to take stuff? You gonna blatantly take because according to, I don't know, folklore or whatever, that solar system thing is the key to getting the Atticus's lost pages. That's what they think. And I guess the police captain in Chicago is I don't know, a member of one of the lodges, the Chicago Lodge or whatnot. Oh, and another tidbit that happened when Montrose and Letty and Tick were in the bar, he was like, we already got one lodge after us. We don't need the other 34. And Tick was like, how you know it's 34 more lodges? He's like, I don't. I'm just guessing. I'm like, you can't just, ain't nobody stupid. You definitely do know that. And that's why you just said that. So anyway, so apparently there is like 34 lodges around the world, I guess, or whatever. And Christina was like, whatever, I'm gonna figure out them pages and whatnot. She told the captain, and he was like, last time I checked, you wasn't even no damn Sons of Adam, because you're a cunt, you know, because she's a female. And there's some ways that I'm rooting for Christina a little bit, because even when she was talking to Letty, she was like, just because this is a man's game or whatnot, don't mean that we can't come in and get this. Tick ain't that special just because he got the blood. I'm like, well, he's special in some ways because only he can do certain things, you know, because the way Atticus sets shit up, only his blood relatives can get access to stuff. So yes, Tick he may not be special, but his blood is. And so unless you just gonna slice and dice on Tick and take his blood around with you, then you need homie. So I'm kind of rooting for Christina just because I hate that whole male sexist thing, like, oh, you're a woman, you don't have no place here. So that just makes me root for her and Letty. I mean, not that I want to root for her like that, but it's just like, calm down, talking about calling her a cunt and all that shit. But anyway, jump back to Boston. Back in Boston, they see they're looking for Atticus, like, where could the vault be that has the pages in this museum? And then there turns out there's a whole wing named after Atticus. So I was like, let's start there. And then they see a statue that's dedicated to him, and the statue is real big, and he's standing up on top of it, and it looks like where there's a plaque to him under it, it looked like that's a door. So okay, they already got the hookup from the security guard. Montrose said, the security guard said that come back later on that night and they'll have 2 hours uninterrupted where they can go and search the place and figure out these tunnels and try to find them pages. So and then at that point, Tick was like, how do you even know homeboy? And then Montrose was like, I know him from the bar. I'm like, ooh, okay. You know him from the bar. He's like, I know from the bar. We could trust him. We could trust him. I'm like, okay, Montrose. Okay. So from there, there's another scene where it jumps off to Hippolyta and little cousin D, and they looking at the constellations and whatnot. And then Hippolyta goes and she says, you see that one? That one's named so-and-so, so-and-so. And then she was like, really? She was like, well, not officially. She's like, that's my comet, but there was a contest back in the day where she found the comet, but they didn't want a little black girl being the face of the contest and winning, so they gave it to this little Swedish girl and said that she discovered it. I'm like, dang, you know, it's stories like that throughout the whole history of forever, because they don't want to give credit where credit's due, but y'all know how that is. Y'all know how that went back then. Shit still today, okay? So anyway, that was a little tidbit that happened with that. So fast forward, it jumps back to Christina. And Christina, it's nighttime now, and she driving off somewhere, and she's being followed by look like some undercover detectives. So it looked like the captain of police sent these folks and whatnot. So they watching her, but then who pull up on them and was like, excuse me, and whoop their ass? That family friend that always rode with Christina. This is our first time seeing him since you know, the whole shit in Artem. So I didn't know if he survived or not, but apparently he alive and he's still bodyguard. And I need a homie like that with me to be my bodyguard, because he whooped their ass and was like, Christina don't like being followed, okay? So bye. And he beat their ass, and that was that. So anyway, back at the museum, they go and they're trying to figure out how to get into this vault. And then somehow Montrose miraculously figures out that the light beam goes off and hits off of this, and then it shines on how the door that's an alligator tooth, and they pull that, and all of a sudden they get into this. I'm like, okay, y'all, a lot of little stuff up in here is just super unbelievable, but it's sci-fi, y'all, so you just got to take it at face value for what it is and just enjoy the ride. So from there, they get into the tunnel. They're trying to figure out which tunnel to get into, and then they start just talking about how it's based on it's 3 tunnels based on his 3 explorations and all this stuff, and they miraculously figure it out, start tying together his timelines of how when he came out with the sons of Adam and all that, and when he had his trips from pilgrimaging and all that other shit, they figured out which tunnel to go down. Once they get in that tunnel, they go through or whatnot, and they walking down this whole tunnel, and it's all, you know, look dangerous or whatnot, and they get there, and then there's like this big ass, which reminded me of Indiana Jones and like the Temple of Doom and shit, or the Golden Child. You know, it's like something like that, where it was like they came to like the end of the tunnel. It's like a cave, and it's like one plank that's about this thin, y'all, and they gotta walk straight down. It looked like you gotta walk a whole block on this one little plank just to get to the other door. And I'm like, and it's all dark and cave, and like you hear bats and shit. I'm like, it wouldn't be me, because I would have fell immediately. My balance ain't that great, and whatever. Uncle George wouldn't have been able to make it on this trip because he got the bad knees. That'd have been me. So oh well. So then they get to that part. So from there, it jumps again after they see where they got to walk across the thing. We see Ruby again. Ruby is at the bar. She is sulking because she mad because that black girl got that job and she didn't. And she's just like thinking like, why wasn't it me? And then she at Sam's bar, and Sam was like, she was like, I can't afford another one. And he was like, oh no, the gentleman across at the end of the bar, old Blue Eyes, it said that your tab is on him. And who is the paying for all her drinks? The family friend, the Braithwaite family friend, sitting there paying for her drinks. So I'm like, oh, he ain't up to nothing but no good. So I'm like, he pretty much probably just trying to get it in with Ruby so he can get to that house, or to get to Letty and to get to that house and figure out more stuff, or just to get a in with to Letty and to Tick and all them on some sneak shit or whatnot. So I know Christina sent his ass. He ain't just at a black bar just hanging out for nothing, obviously. So she was like, white boy, what, I could buy my own drinks and whatnot, so ain't nothing you could offer me. He's like, what if I tell you I could change your life? She's like, I've had plenty of white boys come to me and try to make me a kept woman. He's like, oh, I ain't talking about that. I wouldn't disrespect you like that. And she's like, okay, whatever. So then they sitting down and having some drinks or whatnot. And then it jumped from there. Back to them in the tunnel. They going through the tunnel or whatnot, and then they get to they at the planks. So once they get to the planks, actually no, before they get to the planks, my bad. Wait, is that before they get to the planks? Let me see. Yeah. No, it's not before they get to the plank. They get to the planks, and as they're getting on the planks, Tick and Montrose tie up Letty and have Letty go walk on the planks first. I'm like, why she gotta walk first? But I was gonna say maybe because she waited the least, but I don't think so. I think because Montrose is really tiny, I would think that Montrose is the one that weighed the least out of all three of them, but they sent her ass out there first, and he gonna Montrose gonna tell her a story talking about something, because she was like, are these knots good? He gonna tell her this story about how his forefathers and forefathers taught him that knot, and he was a slave, and he had to tie up the horses back in the day, and if the horses ever got out, he would have been beat. And came Juneteenth, when it was the day of freedom, he didn't have not one beaten whip on him because he always tied them horses up good. And then and Letty's, that gave her the courage to get her ass out there and walk on that dark ass plank. It still wouldn't have been me. And then as soon as she walked over there, Tick talking about, so what you talking about? So we wasn't never no slaves like that. And that story wasn't true. And he's like, look, it got her ass out there now, didn't it? So then they walking on this plank, and then she gets to a point on the plank, and it's like it's booby trap, because it's like a big ass blade, woof, woof, swooshing back and forth. So Tick go out to help her because she almost fell. And he was like, you're gonna have to jump across without the rope on. And so time it. So she jumped across, she made it. They all made it. But then Montrose comes, and then as they made it across the blade, all of a sudden the plank starts disintegrating, and Montrose is still at the beginning of the plank where it starts. Because he says that he yells to them like, hey, it's disintegrating. So what the fuck? So Tick runs back. I'm like, how y'all running on this little narrow ass plank that fast? I know it's just for the sake of the show, but I'm like, ain't no way y'all gonna run that accurately like that. So he run back to get Montrose, and then Montrose throw him the bag. Tick dropped that motherfucking bag and it fall. And Montrose like, hey man, you better catch my ass though. So then he's like, come on, I got you. He catch him. They run across this damn plank. I'm like, why y'all run in the first place if y'all can run that accurately? And then the plank is still coming up on them. And then once they get to the door is like they got to come across the code and decipher the code. And miraculously, Montrose knows the code for that too. What codes to try. He's like, oh, try this. They put that in and then they get through. So then they get through that part of the tunnel. Where does it lead to? Another motherfucking tunnel. But this tunnel is got water in it. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden the water is rising. And Tick is like, after a certain time, it's high tide or whatnot. So that makes it about an hour before we drown if we don't get the fuck out this tunnel. And so they go walking through the tunnel. And from there, they get through the tunnel or whatnot. And Tick, then Montrose said something to Tick because he was walking way ahead of them. And he was like, oh, do you leave your soldiers? Is that what you do? You leave your soldiers behind? He's like, I ain't never left a soldier behind or whatnot. And he was like, but I know it's some stuff that you're not telling me. How did you know the stuff about how to get into the tunnel? And how did you know the how to get through the door or whatnot? He was like, because I had the book of the ancient order or some shit. Your uncle gave it to me right before he died. And he was like, why didn't you tell me that or whatnot? I thought he was gonna be like, how come Sam and all that, is you gay or something? I'm like, boy, this ain't the time. It wasn't the time for that either. But I was like, he better not ask him, is he gay right now when high tide coming? It's just ask him later when y'all get out. So they sitting there arguing. I'm like, y'all ain't got time to pause and argue. But anyway, Letty was like, whatever. And she just kind of walked ahead of them. Then all of a sudden a dead body go past her and she recognized something that looked like her neighbor. And I'm like, ain't no way in hell this tunnel, is that the same tunnel that lead all the way from Boston to Chicago? Really though? They've been walking that long. What kind of voodoo hoodoo shit is this? So I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden they see an elevator. I'm like, oh, so is that the elevator that leads to Letty's house? You ain't no way that that's rigged up like that unless it's some type of magical sorcery that Atticus has set up. So Tick tries to send them up on the elevator, and she like, nah, because he's talking about it's not safe. Y'all should just go ahead and go up. She like, hell no. I done died. He got kidnapped. Why you keep trying to protect people from danger? This ain't just about you. We in this together. So they go forward with what they trying to do. And they get to this door. Once they get to this door, and it's like the water is rising, and they stop pausing too much for me trying to argue about shit. Like, come on now, we can argue once we get the fuck up out of here. It's cold and wet up in this bitch. Who knows what's swimming in them murky waters? So they get to this door. The door, it has an arm hanging all the way through it. And Montrose is like, that looked like a key. And it was like, yeah, but it's, no, it looks like a lock. He's like, yeah, but it was the wrong key. So apparently you got to stick your arm into it to get through. And that's why they were saying that Atticus set it up so only he could open the door, or blood magic, only somebody with his blood could open it. So they pull that arm out, Tick stick his arm in, and it's like clamps down. He starts screaming, but it was just taking his blood. Then all of a sudden a ladder drop from the ceiling of where they at, and they go up and they climb up. All of a sudden they climb up into some room where it's a whole bunch of different skeletons. It look like people just sitting around a dinner and shit, and it's a lady holding a baby. I'm like, what kind of shit is this? And they just sitting there. Then Letty sees somebody see another skeleton that's just laying with their head down, which was holding the pages. So she called him over, and then they try to grab the pages. All of a sudden, the thing that's holding it just start click, clack, pop, locking and dropping, and comes to life and turns into a whole person, and reanimates into a whole person and starts speaking this other language and shit. And then we see it naked. It looks like a woman because she got titties and shit. And then it was a real quick flash, and I was like, is that a dick? So I was like, is she like? I was like, it's like a man woman thing. And they like and then it starts talking, and then miraculously, I guess, since Tick is an ancestor of Atticus, he understands this woman. I'm just gonna call her. He understands her, and then he speaks back, and it's like, you understand her? And she said her name is Yahima Marakati. She's a man, and she represents man and woman spirit or whatnot. And then she's asking where Atticus is. She's like, oh, he's been dead for centuries and all, or 100. I don't know how long Atticus has been dead, but he been dead a long ass time. He ain't here. And then she tells the story of how he how she didn't know she was his translator. Okay, so she didn't know that Atticus was going to be doing what he was doing with the pages. She was like, she never saw anybody or any people who had so much hunger and so much greed. And that's what the pilgrimage and white folks be doing. They just be coming in and taking the resources and constantly just want to drain the land and the resources of places. And like, she was just saying that to Tick or whatnot. And then he was like, I'm sorry, because she asked him, are you family? He was like, yes. I mean, no. I mean, yes. But he was like, we're blood, but we ain't family. So he was just trying to make it clear or whatnot. And then he asked her, he's like, I'm trying to protect my people from people like Atticus, because she goes on to say that when she found out what he was doing, she refused to translate anymore for him. So what he did was, because he told her that he would reunite her with her people, but in a tricky ass way. Because what he ended up doing is entrapping her family there and sending them over to the afterlife and shit. And he entrapped her there that whole time. So she's just been sitting there rotting. I'm like, well, she like, I guess she's immortal or whatnot, or kinda, whatever. So from there, he was like, look, well, I'm trying to protect my family from people that are like him. Can you please help me? She was like, although I'm not going to blame you for your, we're not responsible for our forefathers. I don't know your heart, so I'm not about to help you. Montro's like, man, fuck that. And he grabbed the pages. And as soon as he grabbed the pages from her, all of a sudden the water started coming into the room that they got into, and they got to get the fuck up out of there. So the water's coming in, and then they grab her too, and they like, come on, girl, just don't stay here and die and shit. So they all run back through the room and over back to that elevator. They get into the elevator, and then all of a sudden, I don't know who had the damn pages. Was it Montrose or Atticus? One of them dropped the fucking pages in the water. So Letty, she like, fuck that. We came all the way out here to get these pages. So mama was swimming. She swam back out the elevator, and they trying to hold the elevator open so it don't leave her. And then she grab it and she recovers it. She gets in the elevator. Then all of a sudden, Tick was so excited that she got the pages, and they just start kissing and stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's nice. That's cute. And then when they in the elevator, all of a sudden, Yamahama Koti, whatever her name is, the lady, man lady, she tries to speak, and all of a sudden, like a loud siren scream comes out, and then he was all hell no, because she couldn't stop, and you could tell she wasn't trying to do it. So Tick ass punched her, knocked the dog shit out of her, and then that stopped the screaming because she was knocked out. So from there, we see it goes back to what's her name? Ruby and homeboy, the friend of the Braithwaites, Christina's little bodyguard. She talking to him. She was telling him about her how she didn't get the job and all that, and how the stuff about the house. And I'm like, girl, you got some loose lips while you drunk. Why you think this white boy sitting here talking to you and trying to pry information out of you? You need to be quiet. But she was still talking, and she was like, you think just buying me some drinks ain't gonna get you none? You ain't gonna get nothing. Then what happened? All of a sudden it clicked over, and all of a sudden, I guess they at his house, her house. I don't know. They didn't bust into somebody's house. And then she did mention Letty while she was talking to him. And he's like, who is Letty? She's like, oh, my sister, my half sister, or whatever. So you see, he's trying to get information. Ooh, excuse me. And then all of a sudden they bust in and they kissing and stuff all in the house or whatnot. And she cuts her hand. Well, no, before that, she goes and she says, like, as far as the Marshall Field things, like, she's like, it's a rat race there. She was like, you know, if I had your skin, I wouldn't even have to deal with that. I wouldn't even have to be erased. I could just, you know, walk and do what I do, or whatever. But I mean, that's the times, girls. That's still shit. That's still the times here, now, today, in some cases. So it's just a fucked up world that we live in America. Okay. So from there, yeah, they getting it on and stuff, and they kissing and making out. She cuts her hand, and he licking on the blood. I'm like, I'm sorry, I know AIDS wasn't out or nothing yet, but ain't no way. I'm like, he licking blood? What the fuck? That's nasty. I ain't licking nobody's blood. It's disgusting. And then they all making out, and then she take his shirt come off, and he got a fucking demonic looking tattoo that looks like the goat horns or some shit. It didn't look right. It's like a branding. I don't even know if it was a tattoo, like it was like a branding actually. And then all of a sudden they getting it in, they start fucking on the stairs. I'm like, okay, Ruby, get you some, I guess, girl. So I don't know where that's gonna lead, because I know he only fucking her for some, you know, information or to get towards, you know, ticking on him. So anyway, what else happened? Then it jumps over to Hippolyta and D, and then it's just them in the car, and I'm like, well, where everybody else at? And little D talking about some, how did they get back to Chicago so fast without a car, without us? And then Hippolyta was like, I don't know. And little cousin D, she drawing on something, and she was like, where did you get that? And then she was like, is that your father's atlas? She's like, where'd you get that? She was like, it was in the glove compartment. And then Hippolyta looks at it, and she looks at the last things that George was writing on there, and, you know, about Artem and that county or whatever and whatnot, you know, where the vampires and shit was. And then Hippolyta, she pulls over, and she looking at it, and she like bumped that. You can tell, because that's why she went on the trip anyway, because she just wants some answers about her husband. So she paused, and she busts a U-turn. So it looks like Hippolyta and little baby D on their way to Artem. And I'm like, y'all better be safe, because they didn't tell them what the fuck really is out there. So I hope they all right when they go on their little field trip there. So so we'll see that next week. And then from there, so I guess that elevator had to have led back to Letty's house, which is weird as fuck. Y'all still explain that to me, because that's just ridiculous. But anyway, so they're back there, and they got home. I'm like, what they gonna do with this immortal lady thing? Like, what are they gonna do? But it turns out that yes, Atticus did curse her, so she couldn't talk to anybody, so, with the siren scream, so she couldn't translate or help anybody else. That's why the scream was coming out. So Tick was like, well, I'm gonna try to teach her English or something, whatnot. But then and then Montrose goes and tells him like, oh, I'm just so proud of you, son. You've become way better a man that I could ever be, and all this stuff. And he's like, all right, Pop, good night. And then Montrose walks off into where homegirl is, the siren lady, and he walks off into the room with her, and he closed the door, and I'm like, is he gonna try to do it with her or something? Because I know she got a thing, so he gonna try to get it in with her, because I thought he was about to, he leans over her, and I thought he was about to try to get it in and kiss her. What does he do? He's talking about, so he goes and he's like, I'm sorry. And he slits her fucking throat. And I was like, what the fuck? And then the show go off, y'all. And I'm like, does he know something about this woman or being that we don't know? Because he read that whole book, and I'm pretty sure he probably memorized it and shit. Well, the most important stuff. So I'm like, why the fuck did he kill her? And then what was the point of bringing her in and introducing her at all? They could have left her ass down there with her ancestors, I mean her family, if he's gonna kill her anyway. So that was the episode, y'all. So I'm just like, what the hell? And there's always so much going on. But anyway, sorry it was late. It is what it is. I try to be on time. I will be on time next week. I will try, as long as don't nothing else pop up. But yeah, that was it. I hope everybody enjoyed that. Let me know, because y'all, it's an adventure it's like a movie every week with this show. It's like a different theme of black horror every week on here. And it's interesting. I'm digging it. And I'm just curious, again, as to where this is all going to lead. But again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That's it. That's all. Love you, love you, love you. Peace. Bye.